Welcome to the Parenting on the Spectrum show with board-certified behavior analyst and infant-toddler development specialist, Teresa Alexander Inman. Parenting on the Spectrum dives into real stories, challenges, and triumphs, offering invaluable insights and support for families on your unique journey. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome. Today, my guest is Miss Lisa Watson. She is a transformational coach and author. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. So glad you're here. Transformational coach, what is that?
Well, the word transform means to go from one, being to another. So basically, say a caterpillar to a butterfly. It's kind of the way that I would think of it. And I just help people transform into who they were truly meant to be, which is, that butterfly, that authentic, the authentic expression of themselves is really what I help people do, to get rid of the negative belief systems that are grounded in fear and replace them with ones that are grounded in love, so that you can become, really the deliberate creator of your reality and start living a life of peace and joy that we all hope for.
Yes. Oh gosh, to dream. Now, do people come to you knowing what what their butterfly experience, what butterfly experience they'd like to have?
I think most of the people that come to me are, first of all, they're usually already spiritually awakened a little bit, because that's really my ideal client who I work with, because I do work from a very high level of we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's really the foundation of what I teach. And it allows people to get space from this body, this personality of theirs, and identifying it with it so much, and holding so much judgment, and then holding so much resentment about how this body has been treated, how this personality has been treated. And so understanding that you actually aren't this body, you're just having an experience as this personality and this body. And so I think people don't really know what to expect, like, what am I going to transform into? They just know that the experience they're having right now in this body, they're having trouble getting to that next, where there's just peace, where you can live in the now moment and trust and feel safe. It's really a lack of safety, I think, that most people are coming to me with, and they don't even realize it, where their inner child isn't feeling safe. And so I guess the easy answer to that is I don't think people know. No, they don't know what they're going to transform into, but there's some sort of calling within them that they know there's more. That they know they're holding on to things still that are keeping them from that, and they're just looking to be able to find it.
Got it. Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to be the answer, because, some people ask, what do you want in life? And I was like,
Be happy, to be peaceful, right? To be content.
Yes. Now, how does a stressed mom who maybe just found out that her child received, who just received a diagnosis of, say, autism, or, some other diagnosis, regarding her child, what would you say to her? Because we know she's going through all these, the emotions of, you name it.
I feel fear right away when I think of that, like in knowing, how I felt when I was a new mother. My children are in their 30s now. Not that anything's really changed. And how you feel about your children as they get older, nothing changed. But there's definitely really that fear. Like, you want your child to have the best life, the easiest life, the most productive life. And so it's like when you get a diagnosis like that, it's really a grieving process that you're going to go through, because you realize that you have to let go of this idea of what this expectation that you had of maybe what your family would look like, what your child's life would look like. And so I say, first of all, the first thing that you have to do is simply honor your feelings, but really doing the best that you can do not to get into fear. And back to the spiritual aspect of this, because of what I teach, when you understand that we all came here with our own life path, we came here to go through challenging circumstances in order for our soul to grow, and know that everything is happening for you. Now, to say that to a mother when her son or daughter was just diagnosed with autism on the first day, I wouldn't say, oh, well, this is happening for you, embrace it, because that wouldn't be kind when you know that someone's actually going through a grieving period. And so honor how you feel and allow yourself to grieve that. You're able to do that. But I really want people to know the other thing that I study, and I'm working on my PhD in integrative health medicine. So I'm very much into holistic healing and medicine and things like that. And what I have learned about autism, ADHD, a lot of emotional dysregulation issues is heavy metals and parasites in our body. And the absolute first thing I would tell any parent when they got that diagnosis is to do a heavy metal and parasite detox on your child, like now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start now, because I have seen incredible results with that, with children who are autistic. And it really is being proven that autism is caused through heavy metals and things in our system, that children are just getting way too much aluminum, whether it be in the foods that they're eating, whether it be the formula, things that they're touching, our external environment, vaccinations, medications, what the mother had been taking maybe when she was pregnant, and there's no need for judgment or blame or anger or anything. It's about empower yourself. Don't fall into victim mode would be the second piece of advice, or third piece, I guess. Honor yourself, heavy metal detox, parasite detox, and then just don't fall into victim mode. Know that this truly is happening for you for whatever reason, and that it's not a death sentence, for anybody, and that things can be done, and that what comes out of this will end up being really beautiful if you can look at it through the eyes of love.
Yes, so well put. And I have seen it, once parents have realized, okay, you know what? I'm going to accept this as a gift. And they see the gift in their child, the skills that they have so many just skills that you would just not imagine, and gifts. And when they start to just embrace that, the feeling is a whole lot different. And, I think you believe this, but once our energy changes, our child senses that, and then they tend to change and they're more open to learning. Would you agree?
Absolutely, 100%. I agree. And it's something that we don't understand enough as parents, as adults, that we're energy bodies. Like, we're literally frequency and energy. And the most important thing that you can do for your child is to maintain your own energy. Children learn mostly through modeled behavior, and not just what they're seeing you doing, but what they're feeling you doing. Like, they notice every muscle in your face and how it changes, especially an autistic child. An autistic child they're, to me, they're just like a higher level of being. They're so tapped in to that energy. They're so tapped into frequency. I think the reason that we have so many autistic children from a spiritual perspective right now on this planet is because they're bringing in a level of compassion and empathy that we really need to tap into. It's forcing us as parents to become present. It's forcing us to look at what we've been doing in the past that's no longer working. It's forcing us to look at our school systems and just our child rearing in general, the food that we're feeding our children. It's forcing us to look at everything, because children are our future. They're the greatest resource this planet has, and they're the most important thing that we need to be looking at. So it really is a gift. And I see autistic children as they have so much to teach us. They have just staying present, literally, like just the act of staying present is just so incredible that they can teach you, because you have to be present with them.
Yes, yes. It is, just you reminded me of somebody once said something about, oh, they don't know what's happening. They don't understand what's, going on around them. I said, yeah, put a cookie on the table and turn your head away for 2 seconds and see if they're not noticing what's going on, and that cookie will be gone. It'll be in their mouth. So it's like they are observing everything. And actually, a 13-year-old autistic young lady told her mom, we were in a session, and she mentioned to her mom that I see everything you do. I know. And she's just so intuitive and just so, they're just so open, and
Mm-hmm.
and without filter. A lot of times I find there is no filter, so they'll just say what they say and say what they think. And I think embracing that honesty, like a lot of people get offended, not understanding and realizing, this is something that is just, it's something that they have to learn, right? Because, to be politically correct or whatever it is, it's something that, is learned. And a lot of people, I just feel the authenticity that comes
Mm-hmm.
from the autistic people that I work with.
Yeah, and it's forcing us to be more authentic. And in my research and what I've truly discovered as a reparenting coach that teaches people how to work with their inner child to reprogram the subconscious beliefs, I also write children's books. I just launched this book, Courage Finds Its Calm, which it's really for all ages, but teaching people to be present when something happens that is disturbing to you and how to connect with your breath. And I do this because what I've realized is that all of the problems that we have in society today, whether it be autoimmune disorders, anxiety, depression, all the things that happen, cutting, it's because we were disconnected from our authenticity. We were made not to feel safe in our authentic selves. And we as parents, we're the ones that have been causing this because it's been passed down to us as a behavior. We're completely innocent to this behavior. But when you start to educate yourself on what that sounds like, and let me just give you an example. Like, say, for example, you have a child, a 2-year-old, and you come home and they've found your red Sharpie and they decided to draw you a pretty picture on the white couch. Okay? Mom's not happy, dad's not happy, whatever. The caregiver's pretty upset. And so we get angry at the child. Bad boy, bad girl, whatever we say, or maybe you get a timeout, like that's naughty, not good behavior. You get punished because that's going to teach you to do it better, sort of thing, right? Well, no, because the child doesn't have a frontal lobe, which is the logical part of the brain, only has the amygdala and the emotional part of the brain, which is the emotions just come through the body because they don't know what to do with them. And so when you put a child in timeout or you tell them that they're naughty, bad, whatever word that translates to, not worthy, not deserving, and not lovable right now, that's all the child really hears. That I'm not safe to be my authentic self, because the child was simply being their authentic self, expressing through art and creativity, right? And now it's like, oh no, I'm not safe. If I'm not worthy or lovable, children are wired to know that they're reliant on their caregivers for their survival. Up until about the age of 7, they realize that, subconsciously it's in our DNA. And so if they're not worthy or deserving to that caregiver, then they're potentially not safe and their life is in jeopardy. And so that sounds like sort of like hyperbole, like, you're exaggerating, kids don't really think that. No, it really is what happens. And that's what happens later in life, why we get triggered by things, is because we had to disconnect ourselves from a part of ourselves. That's where the ego kind of comes in and says, well, I'm going to create a personality here that will keep us safe. And that personality could be, the child, maybe they're not getting enough connection and they don't feel safe, so they continue to do naughty things to get your attention. Or maybe they just become really quiet, or they just become really super well-behaved. You're like, oh, this child is such an angel, just always well-behaved. No, they're in fight, flight, or freeze just all the time because they don't know what to do, because they had to disconnect themselves from their authenticity to make you happy. Because if they don't make you happy, their life could be in jeopardy. And so these are the things that are really happening under the surface of parenting, and we don't see it. We don't realize it. And if we knew how we were truly shaming our own children and creating these negative belief systems and emotional dysregulation in them, I don't think any parent would do it. we're innocent to this behavior. So we have to be very kind on ourselves as we're learning.
Absolutely. I wish that the words good, bad, and naughty would be removed from the English vocabulary because they serve no one. They're judgmental and they, like you said, they make children feel less than. So, how would you respond to that then? With the red Sharpie on the white couch, you come in, it's like,
Well, the first thing you have to do is breathe. As a parent, put the mask on yourself first, get regulated. And as we were speaking before about the energy, your child's going to pick up on your energy. So you've got to step into actress or actor mode. Like, just take a deep breath, remind yourself that this was not done intentionally. It was not done out of malice. The child literally does not understand money, time, aesthetics, all those things, right? And try to see it through their eyes. And then praise them for what they did well. And then we'll correct the behavior. They're not going to grow up always drawing on couches just because you don't get angry. In fact, if you validate them and you say, wow, look, you found a marker and you drew a pretty picture on the couch. I see that. How creative of you. You may want to say that. And they're like, say, but remember, where did we draw? Did we draw on the couch? And it's just, it's gentle and it's kind and it's loving. And you get a piece of paper and you say, we don't draw on the couch. And you tell them why. You explain to them all the logical things that they don't know. Talk to them kind of like they're an adult. One, they're going to be learning new vocabulary the more you speak to them. Explain to them, that's such a pretty picture, but this is why we don't draw on the couch. Mommy has to now, you want to help me clean it? It's going to take time, or I got to hire someone, and maybe we got to send it out and then we won't have a couch to sit on later. Like, you're just going to be really truthful, but not shaming in them. So next time, where are we going to draw? We're going to draw on the paper. Okay, and then I'll put it up on the refrigerator and we can look at your pretty picture, but I don't even get to save this picture because it's the couch. I got to erase it, and we want to keep your art because we love your art so much. Something like that, where the kid feels so seen and so heard and maybe wants to be an artist. Like, it can go so drastically different in this child's mind, and it will literally affect the way their life rolls out. Maybe they'll never become an artist if you get mad at them in this moment because they feel so shamed for that expression, and all their little body knows is that shame for that expression because they don't have that logical mind to put all those other puzzle pieces together. And I just want to say that this is how I work with adults. This is the reparenting process. So when we end up getting self-sabotaging ourselves, say we're an entrepreneur and we're not able to move forward, or we just can't seem to find our passion in life, or we're choosing the wrong partners all the time, we go back and we look at these core beliefs that were downloaded into us by our parents innocently in our childhood in small events like this that we all experienced. And then we go and we reparent ourselves when we're feeling that sabotage come on, or we're feeling that trigger come on. We go back and we just talk to our inner child and we have that conversation that I was just giving the example of to have with your child. We have it with ourselves and we just redo it. We become that parent that did that with our child. And we rewrite our history. And we just tell our inner child all those things. Like, you were a beautiful artist. Mama didn't know. She was upset. It was the couch. Like, it had nothing to do with you. You've always been a great artist. And you know what? You're safe to be that now. Like, let's just try it. I promise you're safe. And you get yourself to go do that one thing that maybe you were afraid to do, because you're going to become that new parent to yourself now. So I just want parents to know that be so kind to yourself. Like, you can't really mess up. Like, even if you do get angry at your kid, or you've done that bunches of times and you've used time out in the past, and now you're seeing like, okay, I can see maybe that's not the best approach now. No guilt. You can really undo all these things with your children just by showing up differently and modeling different behavior going forward. They will notice, they will adjust, and it will rewrite their belief system, especially if you openly apologize, and you say, before when I did that, I'm thinking about it and that wasn't very kind. I think you're really this or that, and you just redo it. You can do that. You can have that conversation with them now. Even your teenagers that you didn't do well with when they were, toddlers, have that conversation. Be honest with them now. I've learned things I didn't know then. And I want you to know, like, you've always been perfect. And I'm sorry for all those things that I might have done. Like, I was just doing the best I knew how to parent, and I didn't know it would affect you like that. And I really love you. And, you're perfect the way you are.
Wow, Lisa, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that because it brought me back to my parenting journey. And yeah, there was a lot of, please forgive me. I thought I was doing, just recently I had a talk with my son because he had this belief that men don't cry. And we were together and I was just like, listen, I think it was my fault because I kept saying, whoever told my son that men don't cry, I'm going to find him and punch them in the face. And I realized
It was you.
I think it was me and the reason I said that, we were at the mall and there were some kids running around and acting out. And I said, don't you dare, you stay right here beside me. And I held him and he started crying. And I was like, what are you crying about? And and the other day we were having that conversation and I was just like, I said, I apologize. Please, 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 please forgive his mom. You know what? I remember that time, but I don't think, like it really did, it doesn't feel like it was traumatic. I said, regardless, I just want you to know that, if I knew then what I know now, I would be the absolute most awesome mother there is. However, I didn't.
That's a really important point that you bring up about what your son said when he said that it didn't feel traumatic. It's not going to feel traumatic to them. They have nothing to compare it to. Children under the age of 8 are literally in a hypnotic theta brainwave state. They're only absorbing everything as truth. In that moment, when you said that to him, he wasn't bouncing it off. He wasn't judging it. He wasn't weighing it. He wasn't looking at it like, how does this define me? It simply came in as a download of, don't cry. It just is truth. He's not going to recall that in his memory as a traumatic event, but it's something that shaped his belief system. That's what we have to understand. Our belief systems are shaped by the model behaviors and the things that our parents say. It doesn't mean that it even necessarily upset us, like the example of drawing on the couch. They can be very subtle things. It's just the way we are. So he didn't hear that as like a bad thing, or it was just like, what are you crying about? And it's like, oh, okay, that means you don't cry. When you're disappointed that you can't go play with your friends and you feel an emotion, I just learned I'm not supposed to express that. I'm supposed to suck that in. Okay. So he doesn't see that as a negative event. It was just truth. You just taught him, don't touch a stove. You're going to burn your finger. It's hot. That's exactly the way it was. Don't cry. You're not allowed to. Mom's going to be disappointed. Okay. 1 + 1 = 2. Got it.
Exactly. And I am so thankful that we've had so many conversations over the years. And now he cries. He's in the beginning, it was extra, but I was just like, listen, it's all the crying that you've never done that's coming out right now. So just let it happen. Please just let it happen. And, now it's fine.
That's so cute. My youngest son, he's 32, he'll be 32 in a couple days actually. He is such a crier, and he's always been, and he can barely tell you a story. And he, like, if a TV kind of makes him cry, or if something emotional happened and he starts to tell you, he would cry. And when he was little, his dad and I, we knew better, and we always just like, it's okay, buddy, like, just, you can cry, like, just get it out, and then you can tell us the story. And like, we never ever shamed him, and he never got over it. And I think it's probably his friends or other people that shamed him, not his parents necessarily, but because sometimes I'll hear him say like, I just can't even say anything without crying, like almost like it frustrates him. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, people are allowed to be connected to their emotions. That's just the kind of being that you are. And like, I hope you never change. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And my older son was just like that too. He would just cry. And, it was funny. I was in the hospital and Lee was on one side, just, holding it together, just so stoic. And Dre was on the other side, just crying, just uncontrollably, and I
Aw.
thought, oh my gosh, like I want Lee to cry too. But again, he hadn't gotten to that point where, you know, we had undone the damage that I had
He
already.
never. My oldest son doesn't cry, and he doesn't like to be touched as much. And I think we just come here with our own soul signature anyway, too. Some people are just like my dad was a crier. I'm a crier. I'm like, I just told my son, you got the crying gene. Like the older son just didn't. I cry at everything.
Oh, me too. Me
I'm
too.
surprised I haven't been crying yet on this podcast, actually.
Yeah, I do a lot of crying myself. I watch a show and, it's
Exactly.
beautiful. I cry. It's sad. I cry. It's, whatever. It
Hmm.
just brings tears. So, and I just let it happen. And again, I'm just happy that, and like you said, maybe that's just, Lee's way of dealing with things. But I think crying works for him now. He allows it to happen and it's working for him. So I had to just let go of the guilt when I
Hmm.
finally realized it was his mother who put that in there and just
Think of
changed
all the good things you put in there too. I
it. Right.
mean, how much of like, yeah, what a beautiful being he is because of all the other things that you modeled and you did for him. And it's so important that we remember that where our attention goes, energy flows. Focus on what you're doing well. Focus on what your child is doing well. And just it's all about the stories we tell ourselves. At the end of the day, it's all the story you tell yourself when you get that diagnosis. The story you tell yourself when your child does something or you do something or anything you think of. Literally, it's the story that you're telling yourself that is making you feel one way about it or another. If you don't like the way that feels, tell yourself a different story. Just click, click, click over to a different perspective and just look at it from a different angle. There's always something good in everything. And so the more we focus on good, because we're energetic beings and it works like a magnet, like a frequency that attracts what you're pushing out is attracted to you as an experience in your life, the more you're focusing on the things that bring you happiness and that you've done well, the more experiences you're going to have that are reflecting those same things to you. So that's the most critical piece of advice ever is where your attention goes, energy flows.
Wow. And I cannot think of a better way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Miss Lisa. I've really enjoyed our chat. I've learned so much from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And your book, where can people get it?
Thank you. Courage Finds Its Calm. You can get it anywhere that books are sold. I've been doing a book tour here in Denver. It just came out on August 5th, and I'm just so pleased. Literally, what I've really learned about my book in the past few weekends is that it is absolutely for every age. That it doesn't matter, like 21-year-olds, 85-year-olds, they're like, this book is really for everyone. I had a guy buy it the other day, and I said, who should I make it out to? And he said, me, my name's Ben. He said, I'm just going to put it on my shelf to remind me to breathe. And so it's really just a great little story that helps you to remember to connect with your breath when things do not go your way.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. To our audience, thank you so much for watching or listening. I really appreciate you. Would not be here without you. We are here to help you, to serve you from our hearts. As you can tell, Lisa shared her heart today. So catch you on Spotify, E360 TV, at Parenting on the Spectrum, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.